In the tight confines of the caves, it's easy to give into panic.
Okay, now he's going straight up. This is the part where you want to panic. Let's keep driving.
Alright, commence Operation Panic immediately. To fight your natural urge to scream for democratic salvation, you'll need to know what you're up against and how to come out on top. My name is Commissar Kai, and today I'm going to show you all the tactics, weapons, and tools you'll need to fight through the caves like an expert. We'll start with all the enemies that were added, and some that were removed, before heading into all the tactics and weapons that will keep you from remaining 60 feet under. A big part of this video was going to be about the new Rupture strain and how to handle them, but since we lost millions of brave and loyal helldivers to this stain on humanity's reputation, Command decided to disengage from the fight. I find this incredibly annoying, since I spent untold hours over the past weeks cracking the code for y'all on how they work and how to beat them. So in case the ground tremors and quakes in the future, I'll make sure y'all stand on firm ground by showing you what I learned from conquering humanity's most lethal foes before we get into the cave tactics. Burrow spewers, or brewers, were basically bile spewers that learned to hawk loogies at Super Earth's last line of offense.
You gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that.
No, we're not doing that. These acid balls slowed you and acted like the bug version of a flashbang grenade, going up your screen and leading to a 711% increase in panic amongst most helldivers. Their stats were the same as a regular bile spewer, meaning they shared the same weaknesses to explosives, weapons with high durable damage, and medium pin weapons that could go for headshots. Rupture chargers were a little more interesting. They were basically a normal charger with level 5 armor bolted to their face and front legs. This extra armor meant weapons like the HMG or autocannon were far less useful against them, but their lower health pool made it easier to take them out by smacking them with AT weapons anywhere on their body. Because they had less spiky bits poking out of them, it was also a little easier to blast their butt off with things like the grenade launcher. These killer tomatoes could also burrow under the ground and chase you, which made me real sad that I wasted a perfectly good Tremors joke a few videos back. This underground charge attack could one-shot you if you just decided to sit on a tire and not move. I had to do it. But as long as you keep up your cardio, they usually just poke their head out before winding up for another charge. Finally, for the removed enemies, we have the tax bug of tyranny that plagued the sands and caves, the Rupture Warrior. These fascist beetles gained infamy for an undodgeable underground attack, making them a tax bug on your stim supply. We even saw instances of them leaping straight out of the ground to bite the ankles of airborne helldivers. Obviously, this was a bit broken, but after the latest hotfix, they were very much an avoidable problem. Instead of just running away or diving backwards in a straight line like you were trying to outrun a fallen spaceship, you had to treat them more like a charger. When they got close, you would cut an angle and move towards them or juke to the sides to avoid their attacks. This is a skill you hone early on in your career as a helldiver, but applying it in the tight confines of the caves with bugs closing in from all sides was a challenge. They deserved a bonk on the head with the Nerf bat, but I'm still sad they're gone for the next 5 weeks. All the Rupture bugs shared the same weaknesses while they were underground. Fire still damaged them while they were burrowed, gas still affected them and caused them to surface by evoking temper tantrums against their friends, but the real way we dealt with the burrow bugs was with explosives. Any explosive that went off near a burrow bug would cause them to surface. For example, if you threw a gas grenade at the angriest moles in the galaxy, the explosive effect of the grenade would force them to the surface before the gas started affecting them. The fart cloud of freedom would then affect any follow-up groundhog attacks before they had a chance to jump scare you. For more conventional explosives like the grenade launcher, you would just fire in their general area and they'd either surface or get squished beneath the weight of their ambitions. Dragon roaches are not part of the Rupture strain and therefore are still plaguing our planets with their presence. And because they keep melting my cadets and lighting Reddit on fire with their stupid bullshit, I figured I'd address them too. They are flying bile titans with weirdly indestructible wings. Why their wings are not a weak point continues to baffle me and Super Earth scientists, because their only weak point is their stupid post-game at the fraternity house face. This stupid mug will spew acid fire at you that doesn't seem to follow any particular logic. Sometimes it will just one-shot you out of nowhere, sometimes it does absolutely nothing, and most of the time it will set you ablaze even if you're not in the direct area of the attack. This is really annoying, but there are a few tools that are great at taking them out. Any AT weapon will obviously do the trick with one headshot or a few body shots. Aside from bullying them with mechs or blasting them in the face faced with AT, I have found two other reliable methods of pest control to use against them. The ultimatum can easily one-shot them as soon as you understand that after their swoop attack, they will stay a fixed distance from you, meaning if you walk towards them, they'll back up. If you back up, they follow you. But if you stand perfectly still, they will also stand still at the same fixed distance. This means they are predictable. So stand still for a second and aim right about here with your pocket precision strike and swat them out of the air. If you're worried about landing that shot under pressure, you can also do what I call dragging roaches. Let them pass by you, and once they turn around, fire over their head. Then dive backwards, dragging them into the path of your shot. This is a very reliable way to take them out, so give it a try if you've been struggling. The second method is using the spear, which I would only recommend if you're playing on a more open map. This support weapon was purpose-built for roach extermination because after they dive at you, they politely bow their head in exactly the path of the spear's rocket, meaning that you can one-shot them every single time with basically zero effort. Just be aware that they do spawn on a timer, so if you don't take them out quickly enough, soon you will have a roach infestation puking all over your mission. Finally, for the new enemies, we have Barry the Alaskan Bullworm. Barry is an asshole. He increases the amount of enemy spawns on the map, he does sit-ups all over your fragile body, and occasionally he will eat your primary objectives, locking you out of the mission entirely. But tackling Barry is a massive chore that requires specific strategies to kill him in a reasonable amount of time. So I teamed up with someone who has killed over 100 Barrys. If you'd like to know how best to deal with them, I have a video coming out about the experience later where we'll go over all the strategies in depth for how to hook this worm. But for some very basic advice for battling Barry back where he came from, the Eagle Strafe and Run, heaps of thermite grenades, and mech suits seem to be the best ways to deal with him. If you're doing the Desert Road Truckers mission, you will need to take Barry out back and shoot him before starting the objective, since he can easily destroy your rig or launch it back into space. For other mission types, avoid combat with Shy Halud near objectives or he might eat something important, which will soft lock you out of the mission. Okay, now you know all the new enemies, but there is still one threat we've yet to cover: the caves themselves. This is a new arena of battle for the Helldiver Corps and requires you to hone specific skills, if you don't want to be surrounded before enjoying a life as fertilizer. But if you do master fighting in the caves, you will emerge from your descent a much more powerful force for managed democracy. The first and most valuable skill you'll need to polish is reading the map. Before entering the caves, you can identify locations that have breaks in the roof by looking at your map, giving you a good idea of exactly where you can call in stratagems. This will help you plan out your approach and set up markers to avoid getting lost. When you come across one of these open-aired areas, you can leave things like EATs or the resupply as a fallback point while giving you a handy icon to follow on your map. This also helps a ton with reinforcing fallen helldivers, since you can call them in and arm them up while keeping track of where you can go to regroup with your squad. Once you enter the caves, your map will change to show you the layout of the underground complex. Learning to read this labyrinth can take a little time and effort, but once you're used to it, you can track through the tunnels like a proper rat. If you are able to find underground radars, you will get a full picture of the underground network, complete with the locations of those pesky stalker lairs, making the mission much easier. This is all basic navigation stuff, but the reason you should be constantly checking your map on these missions is to look for incoming patrols. Fights in the caves are dirty and hectic. It's real easy to tunnel vision on what's in front of you as you fight through the never-ending tide of bugs. But this is a deadly mistake, since the noise you make from fighting attracts patrols and static enemies all the time. Getting backstabbed by patrols and curious static enemies is the primary reason Osha Une made the creek look like a Hell Scout summer camp. On more familiar battlefields, this isn't much of a problem, but since the caves limit where reinforcements can be called in, even one death to an untimely patrol can start a death spiral and waste most of your mission's reinforcement budget. So check your map every 10 or so seconds, or after every reload if that's easier to remember, so you can make sure nothing is creeping up on you in the dark. The second skill you'll need to hone on your own personal skill journey is sticking together. This is something that I advocate pretty heavily for, even on normal missions. But in the caves, it's vitally important to support your squad by being in the same area. The caves are just a massive series of choke points that you can either use to buy space or to set up one hell of a kill funnel as the bugs trickle in after you. But regardless of if you're standing your ground and clogging the tunnels with enemy dead, or quickly moving on to the next objective, you'll have a much higher chance of success if you stick together. Alright, hang on. on, I gotta grab my soapbox for this one. This game was designed with teamwork in mind, and nothing proves this to be more true than the caves. You don't have Eagle 1 or your Super Destroyer to rely on down in the dark. Just you, the gear on your back, your faith in managed democracy, and your teammates. Meaning the only force multiplier you have access to is the gear that your team brings. If I bring a grenade launcher to rack up the kills, and my squad mate brings a recoilless rifle for heavy armor, us shooting in the same direction, taking out our targets of choice, is teamwork, even if we never speak a word to each other. Cave fighting rewards teamwork, and teamwork rewards you with memorable experiences and new friendships. I am tired of games always being a flag measuring contest instead of a shared experience between gamers. So I'm glad we finally got a proper challenge that encourages us to work together. If you want to experience what cooperation looks like, join me and my 24,000 commandos on my Discord server linked in the description of this video. Okay, putting the soapbox away. Try and stay within visual range of your team whenever possible, but the nature of the caves means you will occasionally get cut off and be on your own. When this happens, I recommend getting away from the combat zone and approaching from a different angle, or go link up with other reinforcements. If you wander off in the dark alone and are unprepared, it's really easy to just get run over by a horde of stalkers, die, and lose your kit, making it a lot harder to get back to your team, your gear, and your samples. Another easy tip for staying together is to use mechs as a spearhead for an assault on an underground objective. These things are big, loud, and carry a ton of firepower, making them perfect tools for brute forcing yourself through the caves while acting as a beacon for your team to follow. Just try not to get stepped on. The last skill I want to touch on is mastering when to fight and when to keep moving. The caves have two primary environments that you'll encounter: tunnels and open areas. Tunnels are safe. They naturally funnel the enemy, are vulnerable to gas, fire, and explosives, and limit the amount of directions that the bugs can approach from. Open areas are absolute hell. You can't predict where every patrol will spawn, heavy enemies become far more dangerous with room to maneuver, and it's much easier to get separated when there's more space. If you find yourself in one of these death traps, do whatever it is you need to do and move your ass back to the safety of the tunnels. Do not fight bug breaches in the open unless you absolutely have to. When you're in the tunnels, you'll face a few decisions. Do you push through a horde to an objective? Do you reroute and find another way? Or do you close off the area you came from and focus on moving forward? The answers are going to depend on a case-by-case basis. But for simplicity's sake, if there's a bug breach that you do not need to fight, disappear into a tunnel and cover your exit with gas effects. This will clog up the bug breach and give you a chance to move. If you do need to fight the breach because you're raising a flag or opening a 7-Eleven, keep your eyes peeled on the map and lay into any incoming patrols making their way towards you before they become a problem. Okay, now y'all have the basics of tunnel ratting down, so let's talk about what equipment you'll want to prioritize in cave missions and against the Rupture strain when they inevitably return. The primary game completely shifts on these missions. Weapons like the Eruptor are far less effective because you're way more likely to get some new face jewelry from your own shrapnel with all the close-in fighting, and light pen ARs are also far less useful due to these assholes. I'm sorry, Small Warp, but you need to sit this one out. Instead, we want to consider three things: medium pen, stagger, and explosives. We don't need all of these in our primary, but we do want at least one of them. Medium pen will let us blast through the low health of Rupture warriors, stagger buys us enough space to avoid getting stabbed, and explosives force the burrow boys to surface and clog up the tunnels with enemy dead. This means that pretty much every pump action shotgun is going to be good on this front because they all come loaded with stagger. Even something like the Cookout is great against Rupture warriors because a single pellet finding flesh will stagger them, and one instance of being set on fire puts them down for good. Because we're valuing stagger and medium penetration highly, the Slugger shotgun also finally gets a chance to shine. It has great ergonomics as rounds reload, hits hard, and comes with medium penetration. It's still not the best weapon, but if you don't have a lot of war bonds unlocked, it's good enough to get the job done. Never thought I'd see the day that the Slugger shotgun got to be useful. Good for you, Slugger. The Halt is another standout primary with its medium penetrating flechette rounds, rounds reload, and the option to put a pause button on combat with stun rounds. I probably used this weapon the most while researching for this video because it's just great at killing everything. It even helps the Charger since you can stun them before popping their backside with explosives. The Coyote is also an incredible primary against the new bugs and is easily the best AR in the game, which I hope means other ARs will soon see some adjustments from command soon. Medium pen, tons of ammo, a quick reload as long as it's tactical, and the incendiary effect make it an excellent weapon for the caves. Plasma weapons all deserve a mention here as well. The Scorcher, Purifier, and Plasma Punisher can all cause burrowed bugs to surface, deal explosive damage making them great against Bile Spewers, shooters, and can all handle packs of chaff reasonably well. But the Plasma Punisher stuck out to me the most since nobody uses it and it's particularly good in the caves. Just bring a sidearm or a support weapon that can handle close-in work to avoid blowing yourself up. The final primary I wanted to mention is the explosive crossbow. I'm tired of talking about this stupid thing, but it is incredible against Rupture Bugs, especially in caves where the Eruptor can struggle. It has a large explosive radius, fires in an arc which makes it easy to place shots exactly where you want them, and comes with a lot of spare ammo. And it can close bug holes. It's great for patrols, pretty good at killing alpha commanders, and is just an overall solid primary weapon choice. Just bring a sidearm or support weapon to not explode yourself and you'll be a happy helldiver. It's also really good paired with the ballistic shield since that can block Rupture warriors from stabbing you in the knees. The stem pistol isn't a primary, but I wanted to give it a special mention. Due to Rupture warriors taxing the hell out of Democracy's stem supply, having a medic on the squad to patch you up throughout your spelunking adventures is a huge asset. Every game I ran with the Colgate man was made significantly easier because of this sidearm. There's a couple more primaries out there that can perform really well, but this should be enough to get you started. For support weapons, do not default straight to AT. The only armored enemy you'll usually need to deal with are chargers and dragon roaches. Bile titans will get stuck moving around the caves and can be handled with ultimatums and thermites, and impalers have no armor when they do their fisherman's wife display. You can prepare for chargers and dragon roaches with mechs or EATs, and do not need your primary support weapon to handle them. Having one diver with a recoilless rifle can be a great asset to have, but if your whole team is bringing AT, you will be on the struggle bus. Instead, prioritize support weapons like the new spear gun and grenade launcher. These are both massively useful for closing bug holes, surfacing burrow boys, and clogging up tunnels with pre-710. The Emancipator mech is extremely effective, like I mentioned earlier, and the new NEATs are very powerful. MGs like the MG43 and Stalwart are still good, but you will need to build around them a little bit to get the most value. Grenades are also an important factor to consider. Thermites are obviously really good at taking down Barry and other heavy armor, but gas grenades and Pyrotechs really stand out as solid options, especially if you already have AT squirreled away somewhere else in your kit. Stuns can be a fantastic pause button on combat to let your squad catch their breath, but I found gas grenades to be comparatively strong, so you can really go with either or. If you don't have any of these, the standard HE grenades can get the job done, but they are a little limited. Alright, let's end with some loadouts. There are two that I'd really like to share today, but there's plenty of room for creativity against this sub-faction. These are really geared towards making the experience easier rather than trying to cover every single style of play. The first is my favorite setup against this sub-faction. You'll take the Halt for protecting your personal space and lending a bit of utility to your team, the Ultimatum for heavy work and closing Bile Titan holes, and gas grenades to seal off tunnels, soften bug breaches, and buy time to complete objectives. For Stratagems, you'll take the Grenade Launcher for horde clear and closing bug holes, the Supply Pack to keep yourself and your team topped off between resupplies, an Emancipator mech for leading the charge, and Eagle strafing runs in case you run into Barry. But if he's not around, you can bring EATs or NEATs instead to share the Twix of freedom with your friends. Round it out with either the SR-18 Roadblock armor for siege ready, or the new DS-42 Federation's Blade heavy armor for added survivability. This setup is very good at holding the line while still packing utility to help your squad and having at least one answer for any threat you'll encounter. It acts as a great anchor for the team. The second loadout is brought to you by Destroy It All, our resident dewormer for the commandos. This setup was designed to kill Barry specifically, but it accidentally ended up being one of the most optimal setups against this sub-faction. You take the Coyote because it's amazing against pretty much everything, the Ultimatum for bonking dragon roaches, Bile Titans, and slapping Barry's belly, and thermite grenades for extra anti-armor support. For Stratagems, you'll bring the new S11 Spear Gun for the gas effect, ability to close bug holes, and high single target damage, a supply pack to replenish your weapons and grenades, the Emancipator Exosuit for all the reasons we've talked about, and the Eagle Strafe and Run for ruining Barry's day and a little bit of extra horde clear. Suit up in the DS-10 Big Game Hunter Light Armor for maximum aura, or the I-09 Hateseeker Light Armor if you missed that one in the Superstore. With this setup, him and I were able to take down the worm in about 9 minutes as a duo, and full clear the map afterwards. It's just an insanely powerful all-rounder setup that is excellent against the biggest enemy that helldivers have ever faced. The burrow bugs have retreated, and we'll get to see what tools they come back with in a few weeks. They were a bit broken, but learning to balance battle in them with all the new threats from Into the Unjust has made me a better helldiver, both in my ability to destroy the enemy and to take care of my squad. If you still have questions about how you can take on Helldivers' hardest missions, drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. But until next time, this is Commissar Kai, signing out.
Yeah, no.
Oh! Oh
I
god!
had a
Oh,
wall
you
run.
squished sword.
I had a wall
Alright,
run.
just get us out of here. It's fine. Nobody important died.
Dude. I'm trying.
Sorry, I didn't mean it.